Hello there, my name's Tracy Elsom and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in Canada. Today I want to do a quick video for you using this notepad. It's a cheapish notepad that I bought. It's 3 inches by a little over 4.5 inches, but it doesn't have any kind of cover, so the edges I find tend to get a little bit dog-eared. So I thought it would be quite useful to create a notepad cover for it, but this time I'm going to create one that's kind of book style, whereas in the past I've created one that comes down from the top. And I'm going to use a couple of stamps from the Petal Palette stamp set from Stampin' Up! It comes in 2 cases. I've actually put mine into one just to make it easier for me to grab everything in one go. But I have some lovely images there, and also the second half of the stamp set has all these beautiful sentiments and a background stamp as well. And as they're clear mount stamp sets, I can get both sets of stamps in the one case, which is useful for me. It's just something I happen to like to do. So to create my notepad, let me show you how I would go about working out what I need. The notepad, as we said, is 3 inches by 4 3/4. And it's a 1/4 inch thick, so I'll need a spine. This isn't to scale, and I'm going to need a 1/4 inch spine, and then I'm going to need, whoops, definitely not to scale, a 3 inch piece for the front. Like I say, this is just a rough sketch. It's how I would go about working out what I need to do to cut and score my card. Now I'd like a little piece to come over the top here just to hide this bit of the spine. So I'm going to add a 1/4 inch just so that it can come up here, and I'm going to add 1 inch to go down the front there. So that would be basically the cutting. Now I think it would be quite nice on the inside cover of the piece here to have a little pocket, maybe 1 inch deep, that you could maybe put some stamps in, or as you take a piece of paper out you could slot it in there. So I'm going to add an extra piece there, and that's going to be 1 inch. So now when you're making a cover, I always like to leave a little bit of extra wiggle room just so that the card doesn't come absolutely dead flush with the edge of the paper. I like to have a little tiny bit extra, so I'm going to just add 1/8 of an inch. It's not a lot, but it should be just enough to make the difference here. So for my cutting, I'm going to add an extra 1/8 of an inch. So 3/4 is 2/8, plus 3 is 6 2/8, 6 3/8. And here I want 1 1/4, 6, 7. So that's my cutting. That's how I'm going to cut it. And my score lines will be at 1 inch, 1 1/4 inches, and then down here that's going to be at 6 inches. And on this side my score lines are going to be at 3 1/16 and 3 5/16. So my extra 1/8 of an inch gives me a 1/16 of an inch at either end, and I still get my 1/4 inch in the middle. So that's roughly what I'm going to do. I'm not going to need all of these pieces because I'm going to cut out those pieces, and I'm going to cut out those pieces. I only need that one piece to come up, and I only need those 2 pieces on that side to come down. So it's a rough diagram. I will do a neater one for you on my blog, but hopefully by showing you how I go about making this, how I go about planning the cutting and the scoring, will help you so that you can do a similar project but with a notepad that you actually have that may be a different size. So let's start with the paper, the card that we need. Bring out my little arm here, and I have some Melon Mambo card, and I need to cut it at 6 3/8, which is just there, by 7 inches, which is there, cutting blade right out of the way. And on my 7-inch side, I've said I need to score it at 1 inch. One and a quarter inches. And 6 inches. And then turning it to the 6 3/8 side, I need to score at 3 1/16, which is that first little mark past the 3, and 3 5/16, which is the first little mark past the 3 1/4. So there we are. There's all my pieces, all scored now. Now obviously we don't need all of these pieces, as we said, so I have my 2 score lines at the top here, and we don't need that piece, and we don't need that piece, we don't need that piece, and we don't need that piece. And down on this side, it's that bottom little bit that we don't need there. So I'm just going to bring my snips, and you could do this on your on your trimmer, but I'm going to be brave and do it with my paper snips. And I want to make sure that I can bring this up, so I'm going to cut it very slightly into that side, and I'm going to again just do a very narrow notch there to make sure that fits. And then on the top here, I'm cutting down and along here. There we go. Okay, just make sure there's a sliver there so it will fold over. Okay, so here is my diagram, and here are my pieces. So we'll fold and burnish, sharpen all the creases that we have. There we go. This should be the spine of the cover. So this is my little flap that's going to come up, and this is the piece that's going to go over the top. So now I want to do my stamping, and I'm going to grab some powder pink card. I have my scraps here. This piece is 3, let's have a look, what have we got? Yeah, let's use this piece. It is a little over 1/2 inch, and I think we're going to want it maybe to about 5 inches, so let's cut that to 5 inches. So it's a little bit over 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. Brains here, 1/2 inch by 5 inches. Okay, so we're going to work out how this is going to close the notepad. So here is a 3/4 inch circle punch. I'm going to put that onto the front cover. So this is the piece with the single flap that comes up. And I'm going to make it level with that first score line. And I'm going to put it down as far as it will go and punch. That's going to be used to help close the book when it's done. And then to work out exactly where to put my stamping, I'm going to push that in, and I'm pushing that piece of card right up against the fold line and just pinching it . So where I've pinched it on, that's where I'm going to need to put my fold lines. So this piece will sit on the back of the notebook and come all the way round and then it will tuck into that little hole to help hold the book closed. So with that in place, I know exactly what space I've got to do my stamping on that piece. So let's grab a Rich Raspberry ink pad. We have this For Everything sentiment. That's that. And then I'm going to use the large flower image. And I'm just going to stamp that just there on the front cover. And that's using Rich Raspberry ink. Okay, so the stamping's done, the cutting and the scoring is done. All we need to do now is to put the notepad together. So let's start with this piece. First of all, make sure your notepad is the right way up. I've done that before. Okay, so we'll just slot that in there. This is going to help us get this notepad exactly where we want it to be. So I'm pushing that in, folding it around, and I'm going to put some tear and tape on the back of that. Okay, so make sure it's in place, push it down, fold it around the notebook, and then I'm going to attach it to the notebook with that tear and tape. So now I know that's in the right place. And then with some liquid glue, I'm going to attach this. Liquid glue, you don't need an awful lot, it's very strong, but I really want to make sure this note cover stays where it's put. So I can now put that cover on, press that down, and I know that the back of my notepad is in the right place. And there we are, that's how it will stay closed. So we're left with the last two little bits. Let's put a little bit of liquid glue just on the front here, over that first piece, like that. And then I'm going to use tear and tape for this last piece, just because I want to be really sure where everything fits. So I'm going to put a little bit of tear and tape right up against the edge of this last flap, and another little piece right up against the edge of that flap. Turn it off. Take off the backing and just fold that up. Now I have a little pocket there. As I say, you can put a few stamps in there, you can put a little piece of paper in there, whatever you like. And then close that over, and that's how it looks. Now I have noticed that I've got a little bit of overhang here with this edge. So now I've got that in place, I can bring my snips in and just snip that up a little bit more. There we go. So we're just trimming that off just to neaten the edge so that when it closes it's nice and neat. So there we are. Nice little notepad, holds itself closed, nice and simple, and hopefully in showing you how to do this, I've shown you how to make one for yourself with a notepad of the size that you actually have. Hope that's been useful. If you'd like all the instructions, as I say, I will put the diagram on my blog and you'll find the link down in the description below. I'll also have all the measurements I use for this particular project, as well as a list of all the Stampin' Up! Products that I used. If you live in Canada, you'll be able to buy all these Stampin' Up! Products via my online store, and the links will be there. So for daily paper crafting inspiration, tips and the latest news from Stampin' Up!, please visit my website and my blog at tracyelsom.stampandup.net. I hope to speak to you again soon. Bye.